Hi, my name is Will Stamm. I'm a master barber and an entrepreneur, and this is the story of my road to success. My journey first began when I was in high school and just didn't even really know anything about barbering. I used to go to the barber shop and get my hair cut, but I didn't really realize it would turn into everything it's turned into until one day, just being at home, my grandmother, being very young, I was probably about 15 years old, and I was growing a full beard. And she was like, man, you got to trim up. You got to do something. If you're going to go to the store with me, you have to, you got to look presentable. So she bought me a pair of like Walmart clippers or something like that back when I was like 15 years old, and told me to clean myself up and shave like a grown person. So I started doing that and just lined myself up kind of pretty nice and clean naturally. And my neighbors and my friends and stuff started to take notice. Short while after that, and they were like, yo, who's cutting your hair? Like, who lined up your beard, your mustache, things of that nature? And I was like, me. And they were like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, who did it for real? And I was just like, no, it was me. So I brought these little cheesy Walmart clippers and started lining up some of my friends in the basement. And I just grew a liking to it. I was kind of like a natural. And it just kind of went from there. And then I finished up my junior year and senior year in high school, and school wasn't ever really my thing. Like I didn't like it. Um, and that, now comes full circle, pretty funny situation, but I didn't like it at the time. Like I felt like I was in school 8 hours a day, and then I had 3 hours worth of homework, and I was like, I want to go play. I want to go play basketball. I wanted to go, play sports. I want to go hang out with my friends, do something. So I just hated school. I was like the worst student. I was like, I just don't like this. Um, so I had no intention on taking SATs or going to college. And you get to your senior year and everybody's got all these big dreams and these big plans, and they're going to be doctors and attorneys and lawyers and all this stuff. And I'm just like, they're like, Will, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I think I want to go to barber school. So they were like, what? Like people were literally like laughed in my face. People were like, that's what you want to do for the rest of your life? So I was just like, yeah, like I'm thinking like I like it. Like I didn't know no better. I didn't even know how much barbers made at the time. I didn't care nothing about it. I just knew I liked it and I could see myself doing it. So graduated high school, enrolled in barber school in North Philly. Um, and I lived in Claymont, Delaware at the time. And I didn't have a car, just coming from humble beginnings. I lived with my grandparents. My mom wasn't around. I still don't know my dad to this day. So it was just kind of wake up, put some clothes on, go outside, figure it out. So it's been like that forever, just coming from a broken home. The support system just isn't there. Like my grandma, I love her to death. She did everything that she could, but grandparents ain't made to raise young, grown men. You know what I mean? They do the best they can do, but it was just an unfortunate circumstance. So I ended up getting a job working at a movie theater. And when I got enrolled in barber school, I just caught the train. An hour and like 20 minutes to City Hall in downtown Philly. And then I caught like their little Orange Line subway, kind of like MARTA, up to North Philly, and then walked like 2 blocks with my book bag and my barber bag, just going to barber school. I would go part-time. I never even finished. Most people don't even know that, but I only got like half of the hours, and then I just talked to the front office, and we made an agreement, and they just pushed the rest of the way through for me. And then I went and took my test to get licensed to become a barber, and I failed that test like the first 2 times. Like the written part, I passed the practical, but the written part, because I didn't really finish school, so I didn't know what I didn't know. So I failed it twice, and the third time I actually passed by like 1 point. So it was like I finally got it done, got my license, got my paperwork, and I was like, yes, like I did it. I did something with my life. I finished, but then that's when it got real. It was like once school finished, it was like it got real. So I worked at a barbershop at the time in Claymont, Delaware. I worked at the shop. I was there probably a year and a half while I was in school. I was in barber school and in the barbershop at the same time. Once I finished, got my license, I was at like my 2-year mark at the barbershop I was at. So 6 months after I got my license, I moved to Atlanta, Georgia. I just got up and left. I didn't tell anybody. I had a friend of mine who I met when I was a senior in high school. He had moved out here, and he was like, yo, why don't you come down for a visit? And I came down for a visit, and I liked it. You know, then in December I came back, and it was like 75 degrees. And I was like, yo, this is incredible. I was like, yo, I want to move here. So I don't think it quite was December, but it might have been October. It was like 75 degrees. So I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna move. It was just me. I didn't have any kids. Like I said, I just had my grandma, but that was it. And I didn't tell any of my friends. I didn't tell anybody. They probably still hold a little grudge to me to this day about that, because I didn't want them to talk me out of it. I didn't tell nobody. I just left, and people were calling me like, I'm coming to the shop this week. I'm like, I'm not there. And they were like, yeah, right. And they would go up there, and I wasn't there. And they were like, yo, like, you're for real. And I was like, yeah, I moved to Atlanta, Georgia. So I moved in with my homeboy for about 90 days in 2007. So November 2007. I graduated high school in 2004, graduated barber school in 2006. Like, well, about the end of 2006 into 2007. 2007, November, I moved to Atlanta, Georgia. In 2007 is when like the market crashed. So my friend, he was losing his house, let it go into foreclosure. So I was at a point where I was like, okay, I got to go get an apartment, or I got to go back home and let everybody say to me, I told you so. I told you you wasn't gonna make it. I told you you would get homesick. I told you it wasn't gonna work out. So I went and got an apartment in downtown Atlanta, Georgia, in February of 2008. I think it was like Super Bowl weekend. I went to a barbershop that I wanted to work at. They told me I could start. So I went to like the closest apartment they had by, which was like right over top. And I went to the leasing agent, and she was like, it costs this much, and this, and this, and this. And I was like, listen, I don't have that right now. And I was like, but I'm working downstairs. I'm gonna work downstairs at that barbershop. And I was like, if you'll give me the first, like, let me pay first month's rent and the security deposit for like $750 for like a 1-bedroom studio, I was like, you'll never hear from me again. You know, like, and I think it was like $950 at the time back in 2008. So she agreed, and I kind of went off and started working there at the barbershop, and I worked there for 2 years. I built a tremendous clientele, worked all day, all night, 6 in the morning till like 8 o'clock at night, because I was just like, it was either this or I wasn't going home. Like, I just wasn't. I was gonna make a way, or that was just gonna be it. So I worked there for 2 years, and you know, built up a tremendous amount of clientele, did really well. Me and the owner didn't kind of see eye to eye. You know, I had things that I wanted to do my way, and he didn't agree with that. And I felt like I was being treated unfair. You know, I was kind of being isolated. Certain rules were for me that weren't for nobody else. But I didn't really have a better move at the time, so I didn't want to quit. So I kind of suffered through that a little bit. And then one day I came to the shop, and me and my girl, which is my wife now, we shared a car. So I used to have her drop me off at the train station, and I would go, and she would go to work, and I would just catch the train down to the shop. So one day I was doing that, and I got to the shop, and my stuff was outside in the trash bag. And the police were there, and I walked in, and you know, I had clients waiting there for me, and they were like, yo, like, you can't work here no more. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, my rent's paid, like, what are you talking about? So that's when I learned that Georgia was an at-will state, and they could get rid of me at any point. So I was very angry and upset at the time, but ultimately the officer was like, you know, you can't stay here and you have to leave. So I had to grab my stuff in the trash bag. I had a friend of mine come pick me up, drop me off at the house, and that's when, you know, the fire was lit probably more than ever before in my life, you know. And I told myself that day that I would never ever work for somebody ever again where they had control over my future and they could just snap it in half whenever they felt like it. So I got a shop right in Atlanta, Georgia on Howell Mill. I just took a little old hole in the wall building. My wife, she didn't even think, that it was gonna work. It was like, man, this is an eyesore. This building's so old. This is not what I'm thinking when you're talking about opening up your first shop. You're crazy. The person who says they can do the build out, she didn't trust them. And I was just like, look, I got to figure out something. Like, I'm not going back to have this thing repeated again. And my daughter at the time was 6 months. So I'm like, I got a daughter now that I got to take care of. It ain't just me. I'm doing what I want to do. And she was hysterical with it and crying and talking about, well, if it don't work out, I might have to move back with my dad, this and that. And I was like, look, you can either come along for the ride and stay up here and rock with me while I do this, or you can go move with your dad, either one. And obviously she stayed. So we moved forward and I opened up the shop April 6th of 2010. So I got fired on my 2-year anniversary. February 2008, I started at the barbershop downtown. 2010 in February 6th, 2008 and 2010 is when I got fired. So fast forward to April 6th, 2010. About roughly, I signed the lease on February 28th, did the build out, and we started on April 6th, 2010. Now here's the funny thing about that. When I first got started, it was just one chair in there. I didn't have no TV, I had no AC, I had a fan. I was listening to music on my laptop, right on Howell Mill Road. You can drive down that road right now and you'll still see that same building. People used to drive by, look in the window. I just used to be sitting there, just me on my laptop, a station and a mirror and a chair. And my clients, they knew I got fired. They knew I got mistreated at the last shop. So they kind of just probably stuck with me out of just straight guilt and feeling sorry for me, but I had an unwavering belief that if I got my own building and I knew how to cut, I could figure the rest of it out. So I did that for like a year. The business partner I had that did the construction kind of helped me cut costs that I thought, which we were cutting costs, but it was really more expensive because of some mismanagement of funds and some poor leadership. Things were going downhill in year one. So he wanted out, and I didn't. I wanted to do things my way. I was the barber. He didn't really know much about my industry. He just kind of knew how to do some construction work and knew a little bit about business. So he was like, why don't you buy me out for this? I was like, no, I'll buy you out for this. He agreed. And I didn't really have all the money at the time. So I called my homeboy that I moved with. Originally when I came to Atlanta, his name's Jew. It's like a big brother to me. He's 11 years older than me, but he's taught me so much. I'm forever grateful for our relationship and our friendship over the years. He had a girlfriend at the time, loaned me $2,500. I didn't even know her. And that was half of the money to pay the $5,000 to buy my business partner out. So we signed all the agreements, the contracts and stuff, and the buyout was official, and my business was losing money. So I basically bought my first business twice, and I just doubled down on myself. And when that happened in 2011, around May of 2011, I might have been April around 2011, we completed that. And then like 2 weeks after that, I got 2 new barbers and I was off and running. So it was like an extreme testament of my faith in what I was trying to build. And we got rolling after that. And then 2 years after that, it was May of 2013. And I had, first like week of May, me and my wife were engaged at the time. And our marriage was set, our wedding day was set for September 20th, 2013. So we were engaged at the time, and she was like, hey, take me to this dollar store right up here in Cumberland. I need some centerpiece vases. My wife, she's real into interior decoration. So she wanted to do her own table pieces and all that stuff. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I turned down the wrong street. And there was a building there that said for rent. And I was like, yo, this looks like a great place to put a barbershop. She was like, no, we got the wedding, just wait until we get this out the way and then we open up another shop. Like, it costs a lot of money, this and that. And I was like, my first shop was full and I had barbers calling me wanting to get space, but there was no booths available. So I was kind of like, all right, well, I'm like, yo, if they tell me it's 1,000 square feet and this much money per month, I'm like, I gotta do it. So I took the number off the for rent sign, I called, and I put it on speakerphone. And the lady told me it was $100 more than what I thought, but it was 1,000 square feet. To me, $100 is the same thing when you're in business. So I was like, yo, I gotta do it. She was like, oh my God, here you go again. Like, when do you stop? And I was like, yo, I just feel like this is it. You know what I mean? I was like, it's been 3 years. I'm like, I think I can do it. So I kind of forced it and did it. And we signed a contract May 1st of 2013. And May 21st, we opened up. And I had like half the shop done because I didn't really have all the money. So I kind of really did force it. And so we were going through that. And then like the middle of July, maybe 6 days after that, 80% of my team quit on me at my first location. So it's July 2013. I had 7 barbers down there and 5 of them left. So I only had 2. And I only had 2 people at the new shop. So I'm thinking like, what did I just do? I got a wedding coming up in September of 2013. It's July. I just lost 80% of my staff pretty much. And I got 2 new barbers and half of the shop built. We had chairs on one side and the other side was just empty. I still got the pictures to this day. I look back and just laugh at myself. Cause it was just like hard hit and I was just thinking like, man, what am I about to do? So, I'm like, yeah, so now I'm just frustrated. I'm just down. I'm like, dang, man, like we got this wedding coming up. I don't know how I'm gonna pay for this stuff. I'm gonna have debt now. I'm gonna be just, you know what I mean? Just the doubt, you know what I mean? It's there for every entrepreneur. It doesn't go anywhere. And I was just like, well, I got myself in this mess. So I'm gonna have to get out. So I just worked day and night, like 6 o'clock in the morning until 7 o'clock at night. And I would wake up in the morning and I would go to the first shop and I'd work 6 to 2, I'd work 8 hours there. Then I would take a lunch break until 3 o'clock. But during the lunch break, I would grab something to eat and I would drive to the first location and be there from 3 to 7. So I would close up the first location and I would open the second location and I would get the other barbers just to kind of make sure we open and close every day on time. Because in my opinion, it's the most important thing in business is to open and close on time. Because it's the only thing you got control over. So I just did that for as long as I could. And me and my wife, we had the wedding, like the September came. And like, I don't know what it is with September. It's my wife's birthday month, it's our anniversary month in May. But those are my 2 like peak months. So September, first week of September, Barber started calling me. So it was like I had the wedding going on, had all these new hires, stuff. Like everything was just exploding around the wedding day. So I guess maybe it was the energy or something, I don't know. But so then I started gaining new barbers then, but we were still in the hole because I had to put all them on intro rates and things of that nature. And I was just losing money so much every month. Then we paid for the wedding. So my wife after that, she worked like the next like 3 or 4 months and gave me her entire check just to pay for the first location's rent. And then I paid the second location's rent. And then we just charged the utilities, you know, just to kind of make ends meet, just to live to fight another day. So by the time January, February came, we got some traction. We're like, okay, cool. Now the shops, after we hired a couple more barbers, they can pay for themselves. And so now let's just finish off this, you know, $1,500 we had left over from the wedding. And by, I think, the end of February, we had that done. So I was like, all right, cool. So now we're like, all right, we can function now, we can build. So we kept picking up momentum every month after that. And then fast forward a couple years later, we're 6 years in now, 7 years in. And we're just thinking like, all right, so we've been doing this for a little while now, like what's next? So I kind of wanted to open up a barber school. And my wife was like, well, I don't know, because I did in my first like 2012, 2013, I went back to school and got my instructor license. And I didn't get my license, I think, until 2015, 2016. So 3 years in, I'm like, all right, I got my instructor license, let's get a little school or something like that. And my wife's like, no, I think you need another shop. So I'm like, okay. You know, I learned over the years, you know, wife is always right? So she was like, I think you need another shop. So I was like, all right, well, I don't know. And I kind of was in my head about that, but then I started looking at another shop. So we were about to put in an offer. We checked out everything. I hired a realtor. We scoped everything out, checked everything, had a builder. Um, and we were in negotiations, and the leasing people came back to me and were like, we got the property reevaluated. This was over in Grant Park, and they were like, we got the property reevaluated, and it's worth $10 more per square foot. Like right when we were about to agree on a contract, because what they told me primarily was one thing, and then when I came over to check it out, when we got to negotiations, there was another thing. So we all had our emotions all tied up in it, and I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. So I walked away from it. And then I was like, well, maybe it's not the third shop, maybe it is a school. But I was like, how am I gonna know? So then after that, after we got denied on that, I was like, well, why don't I just go work at a school part-time? So I went and worked at a school out in Stone Mountain. I worked there 4 nights a week in the evenings for like 9-10 months. Just to kind of brush up on my teaching skills and just see if I liked it, see if it was what I really wanted to do. Because I'm always a big believer in that. Like if you want to do something, go work in it. Like go work for somebody else first and see if you really want that. And then, once you learned everything you can learn and you feel like it's time, then you'll know. So I went and did that. And it still had me feeling like, man, that was a lot. So then I was like, well, let's look at another shop again. So we did that. I found a spot over in, I think, Little 5 Points. Went through multiple, things, talking to the realtor, stuff like that, going over there, checking out the spot. I was like, all right, this looks pretty good. Numbers made a little bit of sense. It was a little bit of a smaller space, but the numbers were cool. It was doable. I was like, all right, well, we'll just do that. So we go over there and my wife liked it. She was like, okay, this is pretty good. And then I thought we were about to have an agreement and they were going to forward over the contract. And they ducked me for like 2 days, and then the weekend hit. So I called them Monday and was like, hey, I just wanted to follow up. Like I felt like we were, last time I talked to you, I felt like we were basically had a verbal agreement. And they were like, well, yeah, after talking with the owner, they had a nail salon who's got 5 locations and you got 2, and they had a little bit more capital than you. So the owner ultimately felt more comfortable with the other prospect. And I was like, okay. So I was like, all right. So basically, the first time it was like, I felt like they tried to get more money out of me. The second time, I just lost to a better man at the end of the day. So I was like, okay. So then the conflict comes in again. Am I really supposed to be doing a 3rd location? So I'm like, all right, cool. So I take another 3-4 months and I'm like, all right, I'm just going to chill. I'm just going to go to work. I'm going to just parlay for a second. And then my wife calls me one day. She's like, I think I found it. And I'm like, what? She's like, the location. This one's better than the last one. I'm like, okay. This is off Moreland Ave. So it's on the south side of Moreland this time. So I go in there and we check that out. And I'm like, okay, this is a really, really big space. It was too much square feet. So I asked the guy, would you cut it in half? And he was like, I really don't want to, but what are you trying to do? I told him what I was trying to do. He was like, okay. He was like, send me all your information, check my financials. So they cut the wall in half and gave me a right to square footage. So then I went, did the build out. Once we signed the contract and all that, they sent us like a 50-page lease. It was ridiculous. My attorney had to go sort through all that. So negotiations took like 60 days. It was just a bunch of red tape. So we had to narrow it down, cut out a lot of BS. So finally, I think that was like end of March. So finally, like in the middle of May, we were like, okay, we agreed. So then June, like the middle of June, something like that, we were set to open up because they gave us 30 days to do the build out. Because that's all I needed on my first 2. So I was like, that's fine. But then as we're going through that process, permitting in Atlanta was like extremely tough. Like the lady who was assigned over our project started having drama. So she got a divorce, so she was miserable. Then she ended up, her mother passed. So then she was out of the office for like 2-3 weeks. Then came back. Then all this other stuff. So it was just like, and once they assign a project to certain people, the person who's over your project, they have to sign off. You can't just get somebody else in the office too. So we were going through that, man. It slowed down the build out process like 90 days. So I'm paying rent on a space that I'm not even available to use for like 90 days. And I'm just sitting there just losing money for no reason. And I'm like, we really supposed to do this third shop, huh? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, so I'm just frustrated as an entrepreneur. I'm just like, yo, it just never stops. So I'm like, okay. And finally, we get to the opening day of August 23rd. So we had a little grand opening on August the 19th or 20th. I can't remember the day. But August 23rd, we open up. Everything's great. Got all the paperwork. Everything signed off on. Shop looks great. Good. So I'm like, all right, cool. I did all my interviews. We started out with like 5 barbers. So that was really good. So I'm like, okay, cool. We just build up from here. 6 months later from August, pandemic hits. We have to close for 6 weeks. So I'm just bleeding money at this point. I'm just like, yo, this is unreal. So I got a nice shop. We're building it. We're picking up momentum around the holidays. We're heading into the new year. It's a new shop. You know, when you first build a business, first 6 months, it's all new. So I'm just sitting here like, all these barbers on my team now, you know, we're trying to build and we have to go through this pandemic. So I just said, man, how am I going to get through this? So I just was going, you know, just thinking about it as we had to close down. I just decided, I was like, all right, we're closed. We can't open. Ain't nobody sending no money. Little small stimulus checks. I mean, they got paycheck protection programs, things of that nature. But that's for companies with employees because they're trying to save the unemployment rate. So there was really nothing for me. So I had all these barbers, didn't know how they was going to make money. You know, didn't know how they was going to feed their families. So I had to manage 3 locations in crisis. That was all new to me. And I was just like, at the end of the day, I just took all the losses myself. And I said, you know, I don't want anybody to pay any rent until we're able to come back into work. Because I just have a business philosophy. Like, if you're not making money, I don't want to make money. If I can help you make money or provide you with an opportunity to make money, I deserve to be paid. That's just simple as that. You know, it was government forced. It wasn't nothing I could do about it. Everybody kind of understand it was out of my hands at that point. So I was just like, look, man, I checked on them. I was like, look, if you need something, just let me know. But don't worry about paying rent. And when we're allowed to open back up, we'll open back up when everybody's comfortable. You know, we met through Zoom, things of that nature, just kind of just having a little powwow, just seeing how everybody felt, how everybody was doing, and what we wanted to do going forward. So I kind of included everybody in the decisions. So we were out 6 weeks, and I just took the losses on the chin. It was some of the hardest weeks because I'm such a workaholic. I'm just sitting at the house, like just paying bills because I had to pay all my rents. All my landlords were like, yo, don't make your problems my problems. The first landlord was like, look, man, that's your problem, not mine. And I was just like, damn, that was a tough thing to accept. Second location was like, hey, you still got to pay rent. We won't charge you any late fees if you pay late, but you still got to pay. I was like, okay. I went to the third one. He was like, look, man, this has nothing to do with us. You still have to pay your rent. So I was like, all right, cool. Well, I guess I got to pay rent then because I'm in contracts. So if I don't, like, they're not going to forgive it. Like, yeah, they can not evict me, but the bill don't go nowhere. So now you just get further in the hole. So, luckily, I've had tremendous financial discipline over the last 10, 11 years to where I just had to lose a bunch of my savings and just kind of had to swallow it. You know what I mean? Might as well went to Vegas and rolled the dice, you know? So, but at the end of the day, I felt like I was taking care of people and ultimately at my core, I was doing the right thing. So we survived it. May 1st, we were able to get back in, but I told all my barbers, I didn't want to force nobody to come back to work, right? So I was like, look, here's an intro rate. When we get back, we'll rebuild. And also, I want you to come back when you're comfortable. So if May 1st isn't it, then that's not it. If it's May 15th, if it's June 1st, whenever you want to come back, whenever you feel like you're comfortable enough, then that's what I want you to do. So about half of them came back immediately because they were like, look, man, I want to make money. I'm over this. Like, you know, whether they thought it was real or not was on them. And others were like, no, they wanted to go let everybody else test it out first. And then once they seen people were making money, like, oh, well, maybe I can come back then. So, but yeah, I went day one. We just took all the necessary precautions. and we started building from there. And then, but the interruption in business cost me dearly because a lot of my team members couldn't survive 6 weeks without making any money. Still trying to figure out if they could get unemployment or not. So they had to go get jobs. Some of them went and drove for Uber. Some of them went and got, jobs that, they could just do, just to kind of make ends meet, which I respected that. I'm like, look, you got to take care of yourself. Like, this is a crisis. It is unfortunate. But I don't want you to feel like you're doing me wrong. I don't want you to feel like I'm doing you wrong. You have to take care of your family. You're grown. It's crisis. You know what I'm saying? Nobody has the answer. I don't, and I ain't gonna act like I do. So you have to figure it out. So they went and did that, but I ended up losing 10 barbers across all of my locations. So that was a major hit. So 2020, I just was absorbing losses like almost the entire time. But it was okay because the financial discipline was able to provide a boat, I guess, to just float along. And now we're at the start of 2021. We've added some new members to the team, and things are on the up and up. And things are going well, and all 3 locations are open. Still not in debt. Just had to absorb some major losses, but I'm grateful for all of that because I feel like the best is yet to come, and I feel like it brought my team like that much closer together, that we were all able to kind of support each other and survive it. When you go through major transition and major problems and you overcome it, it just makes you a little bit tougher, and it also increases your faith and belief in what you're doing. So that was my greatest challenge to date, and it seems like they never stop coming, but we always overcome. So I'm perfectly fine with that. So that is kind of where we are as of 2021, but it's just been, an amazing journey so far, and I'm just looking forward to what's to come. The name ProFRESHional Cuts comes from just it's very unique, right? But it comes in 3 parts. So as a young person, I always strive to want to be like the best and be a professional at whatever it is that I did. So the pro part comes from just being a professional, right? The fresh part comes from just a childhood nickname. Like I was the white boy on the basketball team, and all of the girls, thought it was fly, especially the sisters. That's why I'm married to one. So that's where I got that name from. And then the IONAL is international. So that's where you get ProFRESHional from. It's professional, fresh, and international. And fresh was just catchy because everybody says they going to get fresh at the barbershop. Like you can't put on a fresh outfit without a fresh haircut. It just doesn't work. So that's the uniqueness behind the name. People mispronounce it when they say it, but when they read it, they get it. So, it's better written than it is said. But yeah, that's where that originality just comes from. And it's so funny, when I started it, people were like, why do you want such a ghettofied name? And I'm like, you don't understand. I'm like, this is the unique creativity of it. They're like, yeah, but when you sign this on paperwork, people want to know it's ghetto. I said, no, that's what you think. And we're 11 years in now, so we see who was right and who was wrong. Success to me is, I just determine it by like how much time you have. Like, are you free? Because like I used to think it was like you need to make a lot of money, but if you spend a lot of money, that's why you need to make a lot of money. Like for me, it's just having the ability to do what I want, when I want, however I want. So if I have enough resources to get the money problem out of the way, where I can do what I really, really want to do every single day, and that's success to me. And when I found out barbering was it for me, that's really when the success really started. And that's really when it came. The rest of it is just a formality, because I literally wake up every day and go do exactly what I want. And I'm able to help people in the process. So I would say I probably became successful at 19, 20, because it was like, this is it. I haven't done anything else. I don't want to do anything else. That's all I want to do. That's it. I don't want to do nothing else. So I've always felt free. I've never had a problem like making money, doing it. And then once you learn a couple financial disciplines and you make money for you, and you don't really have to go to work, but you still do it anyway. That's the ultimate success to me. And I've reached that point. Now it's just about creating the memories and the time to invest in my family. And then ultimately showing them that it doesn't matter what you do. Here's how to do it. And we'll see what happens. What's to happen next is, for me, it will most likely be a school. Like as far as barbershops, I got 3 locations. I'm finished with 3 locations. The next phase for me is definitely teaching. I'm a natural when it comes to teaching. I can break things down and make it very easy for others to learn. And that's the next phase for me. We will expand into more locations, but I'll develop managers and leaders, and then I'll help them get their own shops. And it'll all be under the same brand. Like a lot of them have already told me, like, I just want to keep this going. So that's what we'll be doing coming up in the future. And then in the meantime, I'll step away from the shops. And what that does is open up opportunities for them. And I'm going to go build a school. And then they'll have a direct pipeline to be able to filter new graduates, new barbers. And the new barbers, the great thing for them is they'll be highly trained and be able to go into a winning culture where they can succeed a lot faster, and they can climb the chain and get their own location as well. So I'm trying to build a full-blown operation from the teaching level to going building 6 figures as an income as a barber, to ultimately stepping up into management, and then ultimately stepping up into ownership. And that's my personal mission statement for my business, is just to develop community and just also develop others to ultimately earn an income and retire financially free. Because I think people can really get to the core of who they are if they get the money problem out the way. And I just use barbering to do that. All right, once again, my name is Will Stamm, and you can contact me on my website at willstamm.com. That's WILLSTAMM, which is my first and last name.com. All the information about me and what I got going on will be on there. You can also connect with me on Instagram at Will Stamm, as well as Facebook and whatever other social media sites or whatever come out. And just stay in tune, man. ProFRESHionalCuts.com is where my business is hosted. With the barbershops, you can check out the locations and things of that nature, and just check out everything we got going on. And be on the lookout for ProFresh Academy, which will be the barber school that I'll be launching here very, very soon. So stay on top of that. Barbering can be an amazing, amazing opportunity for you. And I'd be glad to show you what it's done for me and teach you how to do the same thing.